I walked across the stage to the sound of strangers clapping because my parents skipped my college graduation to help my sister move. And somehow, that wasn't the part that broke me. What broke me was what I found after. I'm 22. My sister, Emily, is 19. If you lined us up as kids, you would have guessed who the favorite was. She was sunshine, bouncy ponytail, glittery shoes, lied on the couch like a cat in a spot of light, and purred about everything she loved. I was quieter. I liked drawing, building things out of whatever I could find, lining up my pencils in a row. I wasn't unhappy exactly. I just wasn't loud. And in our house, the volume got rewarded. My mom used to stand in the hallway with her phone and bark out directions before school. Chin up, shoulders back. Smile. The camera shutter would rapid fire. Ka 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 ka. Okay, now one with your brother. I'd get pulled in, stand here, stand there, her hand on my shoulder like she was adjusting a prop. I always had a cowlick I forgot about and a hoodie that didn't match my shoes. She never noticed me unless I messed up a shot. Birthday seasons told the truth early. Emily's birthdays felt like a movie set. Streamers hung just right. A tower of pastries from the bakery with pastel icing. Relatives piling in with bags that crinkled. Her name, huge, on a banner, letters cut out from glitter paper. My birthdays. They weren't bad. They were just small. A cake from the grocery store, a candle that tilted to the side, my dad slicing thin pieces so there'd be enough for later. One year, I asked for a bike. I practiced the pitch. I'll ride it to school, so it saves you gas. I'll take care of it. They said money was tight. 2 weeks later, Emily got a pink scooter with a bell that rang like a giggle. She's been so good lately, my mom said, squeezing her shoulders. I sat on the porch steps watching the blur of the scooter go around the driveway, my palms pressed into the wood, the ridges biting my skin. I told my brain, don't cry, it's fine, be cool, be cool. My eyes stung anyway. I can't tell you when I officially realized it wasn't in my head. It was 1,000 tiny choices. Emily got a B on a test. We're so proud of you, my dad said, beaming like he'd just been handed an award. I'd bring home an A and here. That's what we expect from you. Emily forgot to turn something in. She's still adjusting, my mom murmured, fingers in her hair. I'd forget once and get. You need to be responsible. It wasn't mean. It was measured. And somehow, that hurt worse. In middle school, one of my drawings got picked for a local exhibit. It was this messy, charcoal cityscape from a photo I found in a library book. I remember the room where they hung it. The smell of paint and coffee. Everyone standing with their shoulders a little lifted because they were proud and didn't know where to put the feeling. Parents holding bouquets from the grocery store, purple tissue paper fluffed over the tops like clouds. I stood by my own drawing, hands in my pockets, scanning the door every minute like maybe my mom would burst in panting and saying she tried. She really tried. She told me she couldn't make it. Emily had dance. My dad was just beat from work. So I watched other kids get hugged, and when a teacher wanted to take my picture, I smiled like I knew what to do with my face. On the bus home, I held the program in my lap and folded it until the edges got soft. High school magnified everything. Emily joined a dance team. If you've never been in that world, it's a universe. There were costumes individually bagged with little Tupperware for each pair of earrings, tanning appointments, hotels with carpet that felt like plastic, and makeup that turned our bathroom into a glitter explosion. My parents paid for it like they were paying a utility bill. Automatic, no question. Meanwhile, when I wanted to try for the basketball team, I needed shoes. Sports are expensive, my dad told me without looking away from his email. Focus on school. You're the academic one. It would have been easier if he'd just said, we're not doing that. Instead, I felt like I was being redirected to a lane that kept me quiet and useful. I started bagging groceries at 16, partly to be out of the house, partly to save for a car. My hands smelled like oranges and rotisserie chicken. I stacked milk in the fridge, listened to the beep of the scanner, said paper okay, until my voice made a rut. I saved and saved, counting the progress like notches on a doorframe. And finally, I bought a '98 Honda Civic that sounded like it had opinions, but ran if you treated it gently. It was freedom. It was the first thing that felt solely mine. For Emily's 16th, my parents got her a brand new Toyota Corolla. It's safer, my mom said, like she was reading it off a pamphlet. I nodded. I told myself not to be petty, not to let it turn into a thing. I told myself we were different, and different didn't mean unfair. 6 months later, Emily totaled the Corolla. She'd looked at her phone at a red light and rolled into the car in front of her. She was okay. I was grateful she was okay. But I also watched my parents hold her like a baby bird, whisper, it's just a car. And then 2 months later, there was another new one in the driveway. Same color, even. When my Civic started sputtering a few weeks after that, I asked my mom if there was any way they could help with repairs. She stirred something on the stove without looking up and said, "You need to get better with money." I nodded. Steam fogged up my glasses. I wiped them on my sleeve and went to my room. People think being the unfavored one means you're angry all the time, like you slam doors and yell that it's unfair. It's not like that. It's like trying not to make the water move. You get real still. You stop asking. Being upset becomes the worst thing you can be because it's the one thing that gets you noticed for the wrong reasons. So you become easy. You ask for nothing. You're the kid they point to at family gatherings. He's so independent, and everyone nods like that's a compliment. Maybe it is, but it's also a way to starve a kid and call it a diet. When college acceptances came in, I opened my email sitting on the floor against my bed frame, heart punching my ribs. I got in. First gen. I walked into the kitchen with my laptop open, ready to share that weird, buzzing electricity. "That's great," my dad said without taking his eyes off the news. "How are you planning to pay for it?" My mom glanced up. "Congrats, honey. We'll help how we can." It was nice in that vague way that sounds like a promise and dissolves when you touch it. When Emily got into college 3 years later, my parents turned the house into a Pinterest board. Balloons that spelled her school letters. A slideshow of baby pictures projected onto the living room wall. Emily in a tutu. Emily with cake on her face. Emily with a toothy grin missing front teeth. Relatives drove in. They toasted with sparkling cider and clinked glasses. On the screen, there was one photo of me at 10, standing next to her in a sweater that was a size too big. In the corner, my face was slightly out of focus. I laughed with everyone at a baby video where she tried to say spaghetti. I stood at the edge of the room with a paper plate and watched my dad's eyes get glassy. I'm not trying to paint them as villains. I don't think they even knew what they were doing. I think that made me feel worse. Graduation day came for me in May. I had sent the date and time months in advance, told them where to park, circled the arena on a map like I was guiding them to buried treasure. "We'll try to make it," my mom texted. "We're busy helping Emily move into her new apartment." I got it. I did. Moving is a lot. But this was my day. I keep telling myself that, too. The words don't change anything. I scanned the crowd as we were lined up in our caps and gowns, searching for my mom's red scarf, my dad's ridiculous hat. Nothing. I walked across that stage to cheers that belonged to other people's names and felt my stomach float. Later, my phone buzzed. From my mom. "Sorry we couldn't come. We're exhausted from helping Emily get set up." That was it. "No, we're proud." I sat on the edge of my bed in my gown, the zipper digging into my throat, and I cried in this silent way where you don't make any noise because you still don't want to make a fuss. A couple weeks after, my mom called to say they were having a dinner for Emily getting into some special program at her college. "We're doing a nice family thing," she said, bright. "You'll come, right?" I was working late. I told her I couldn't. "You could make time if it mattered to you," she said. She said it like she'd discovered something about me, like she was disappointed that I wasn't stepping up. Something in me cracked open. Not a snap. More like a slow tear that had been there forever suddenly reached the edge. I stood in my kitchen, holding the phone in that one weird spot by the window where the reception is good, and I told her everything. I told her how it felt to be the photo you cropped to get to the main subject. I told her about birthdays and the art exhibit and the Civic that coughed up the street while the Corolla slept easy under the garage light. I told her how at every step it felt like they were measuring me against a standard that kept slipping away. "You're twisting things," she said, her voice going a little high like it does when she's trying not to cry. "We love both of you." My dad got on the phone. "You've always been sensitive," he said. "You need to grow up and stop keeping score." That line, "stop keeping score," I've heard it my whole life. It sounds wise until you realize it's what people say to the person who never got the ball in the first place. I hung up and stood in the quiet. The tick of the kitchen clock felt too loud. I packed a bag. It didn't feel like running away. It felt like turning down the volume on a radio that's been buzzing in your ear for years. A friend had a small place closer to my work and said I could crash on his couch until I found something. I took what I needed. A mug. My sketchbook. The hoodie that always smells like rain for some reason. I told myself I'd go back for the rest later when it didn't hurt so much. That night, for the first time in a long time, I slept like my body owned itself. Here's where I need you to lean in with me, because if the story ended there, it would be sad, sure, but ordinary. People move out. Families fight. But the thing that sharpens your whole life sometimes hides in a drawer you haven't opened in years. I went back to my parents' house a week later when I knew they'd be at work. I wasn't sneaking around. I just didn't want the whole routine. "How are you? We miss you. Why won't you come to dinner?" I wanted to grab some boxes from the basement and leave. The basement always smelled like dust and laundry detergent. I flicked on the light, and the pull string made this little clicking sound that made the silence feel bigger. There were stacks of plastic totes, each with a label in my mom's neat handwriting. Christmas, camping, Emily dance. My name didn't show up on a label until the third shelf. Sam's school. The box was lighter than I expected. A couple notebooks. A lanyard from a field trip. At the bottom, under a stack of drawings on printer paper, there was a manila envelope with my name in my grandma's handwriting. I recognized the swoop of her ass. She died when I was in 8th grade. My heart did that thing where it hits your ribs, then has to gather itself. Inside were deposit slips and printed statements from something called the Grandway Educational Savings Fund. 2 accounts, one labeled with my name, one with Emily's. There were sticky notes in my grandma's blue pen. For college, proud of you already. There were little hearts on the corners, drawn like she didn't want it to feel formal. I flipped through the pages, my hands starting to shake. Emily's account had steady deposits every birthday and holiday for years. Then withdrawals, dance studio fees. One big chunk the week, she turned 16 labeled Vehicle Safety Fund. Another note, deposit to dealer. My account had the same early deposits. And then, around the time I was a freshman in high school, the deposits stopped. There were a couple small withdrawals labeled family expenses. Then a big one my senior year labeled household adjustments. The balance was almost nothing. I looked for the page where it would say tuition payment, State University. It wasn't there. Not because I didn't go. I went. I went with loans and 3 jobs and a fridge with ketchup and nothing to put it on. The savings that my grandma had smiled about at Thanksgiving, they had been spent. Not on me. I sat down on the concrete floor without meaning to. I loved my grandma. I could hear her laugh and the way the light buzzed. I held the papers and felt my face go hot and then cold. It wasn't that I wanted the money for a new car or a trip or something flashy. It was the story I'd built to keep myself okay. The one where we were a family who did their best with what they had. The one where it wasn't favoritism, it was logistics. The one where I told myself, you didn't get the things she got, but that's because things were tight, not because you were less. That story broke apart in my hands. I put everything back exactly like I found it. I wasn't ready to show it to anyone. I wasn't even sure if I was ready to be angry. I felt kind of hollowed out. I remember I drove back to my friend's place and didn't put any music on. I listened to the Civic and the sound of my own breath stuttering in my chest like a skipped track. The next day, I answered when my mom called. I thought maybe she wanted to apologize or check on me. She wanted to know if I could come over and help Emily hang curtains. I said I couldn't. She sighed into the phone. You used to be so helpful, she said, like I'd changed. Like I had become stingy with my time on purpose. Did Grandma have a fund for us? I asked, voice steady. There was a tiny beat. What are you talking about, she said. A college fund, I said. I could hear a kettle on in the background, the pitch climbing. I found statements. With my name and Emily's. We used that for the family, she said quick. Things were tight. You know that. Then she added, too fast. And you got scholarships. Not enough to cover all of it. And even if I had, that wasn't the point. Did you use mine for Emily's car? I asked. I wasn't accusing. I was trying to label things correctly. This is ridiculous, my dad said, picking up the phone from her. We did what we had to do for the household. Stop digging up old stuff. Stop keeping score. I didn't yell. It felt like if I did, I'd make the story easier for them to tell themselves. There he goes, too sensitive. I said, okay, and hung up. Then I put my phone face down for hours and stared at a corner of the ceiling where the paint was peeling and didn't move. That was my collapse. Not dramatic. Not cinematic. Just stillness that felt like being stuck in wet cement. The paranoia crept in that night. The kind that says, what if I made it all up? What if I'm being unfair? That voice is loyal, even when it's wrong. It's built in when you've spent years being told you're remembering it wrong. But then Emily texted. They're freaking out about you, she wrote. I figured, I sent back. Then she wrote, I get it. I really do. That stopped me. I could feel how sincere it was. I asked her to meet me for coffee. We sat in a booth at this diner that smells like pancakes even at night. She pushed her hair behind her ears, no makeup, looking younger than 19. I told them to go to your graduation, she said, picking at a sugar packet. I told them it mattered. Mom said you'd understand, because you're good at being on your own. They say that about you a lot. They think it's a compliment. I told her about the envelope. She closed her eyes for a second, like she was bracing. I wondered, she said. Grandma used to talk about your college jar when you were little. She'd wink. I didn't think, she trailed off. I didn't ask for a car, she added quickly. They just gave it to me. They wanted me safe. They wanted me happy. It felt nice until I realized I was standing in the middle of a pattern that hurt you. She hugged me in the parking lot and whispered, I'm sorry. I believed her. I don't think this was her fault. She was a kid who got told yes. That's not a moral failure. That's a system. After that, I was just tired. Not angry. Just done performing like things didn't hurt. I started therapy with someone recommended by my friend. The first session, I talked for 40 minutes without breathing right. I cried in starts and stutters, like my body didn't trust it. The therapist asked me if I'd ever considered that maybe I didn't fail to earn love. Maybe I was never offered the kind of love I needed. That sentence hit like a train and then felt like a hand on my shoulder. I built a quiet life in my little apartment. Not perfect, not Instagram worthy. My couch sprung on one side, so you sink if you pick the wrong cushion. My dishes don't match. But I started doing nice things for myself in small ways. I put my art stuff on a shelf where I could see it, not in a drawer. I bought myself a bike, a used one from a listing where the guy threw in a bell for free. I rode it in the evenings, the chain clicking, the wind in my face feeling like the opposite of being ignored. I texted Emily sometimes to check on her classes. We didn't talk about our parents unless one of us needed to. She started to form a life that wasn't defined by being chosen, and I started to form one that wasn't defined by being overlooked. I saw my mom once at the store by the produce section. She looked smaller. I couldn't tell if it was the fluorescent lights or the quiet in me. She touched a bag of grapes like she might test if it was real and said, "We miss you." I said, "I know." She asked if I was living with a girl. I laughed. She looked hurt. That's how tangled we were. Love sounded like curiosity about whether I had a girlfriend, not like asking how therapy was. Later, I wrote my parents a letter. I didn't send a list of everything I'd saved up over the years to hold against them. I said, "Here are the ways I want to have a relationship. I need you to notice when you compare us. I need you to understand why I moved out. I need you to stop using the phrase, stop keeping score. And I need an honest conversation about the fun grandma set up, about what happened and why it matters." I said I loved them. I meant it. Love is stubborn like that. They wrote back that they were sorry I felt hurt, and that they didn't remember it that way, and that they'd do better, which is a beautiful sentence and kind of empty when it's all you get. But still, it was movement, a nudge. The part one keep coming back to is this. I spent years trying to be so good, so efficient, so low maintenance that maybe I'd be visible. It's like I thought if I held still long enough, someone would notice the outline of me against the wall. And when they didn't, I thought, okay, the answer is to be even more minimal. Shrink more. Make fewer ripples. That's not how being seen works. At all. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is take up the space you need and let the people who can't handle it adjust themselves or step back. Do I forgive them? I'm working on it. Not because they deserve it, but because I don't want to carry around a story that poisons every good thing I build. I'm learning the difference between forgiveness and access. You can forgive someone and still not invite them to stand in the front row of your life. You can love someone and also not let them spend your grandma's careful savings on everything but you. A week ago, I taped my degree to the wall above my desk. Not in a frame. Not fancy. I just wanted it up where I could see it. I made myself pasta and put on music that made the apartment feel bigger. I texted a picture of the degree to Emily. She sent back a bunch of emojis and wrote, "Proud of you." It was simple. It was enough for that moment. If you're listening to this and something in your chest is nodding along, I want to tell you what I wish someone had told me when I was 12 and sitting at an art show alone, pretending I didn't care. It's not jealousy. It's grief. You're grieving a family that didn't show up the way they should have. You're grieving the bike you didn't get, the cheering you didn't hear, the photo where you didn't matter. That grief is real. It doesn't make you petty. It makes you human. And there's life on the other side of it. You can build your own weird, good family out of friends who clap too loud when you do something small. You can be the one who shows up for yourself even when nobody else does. You can send a proud of you text first. You can be the person you needed. Sometimes I stand in the doorway of my little kitchen, the one that gets afternoon light if I squint, and I think about being 10 on the porch, watching Emily circle the driveway on her scooter while my mom took pictures. I think about how much I wanted someone to turn the camera just a little bit and say, "Hey, you over there." Smile. I can't go back and put myself in those frames. But I can take a lot of pictures now. I can pick up my own phone, point it at the mirror, and say, "Smile, kid. You did good." If you've ever been the unfavored one, the quiet one, the one who keeps getting told to deal with it, yeah, I see you. I wish I could hand you a bouquet at your art show. I wish I could show up to your graduation with a goofy sign. Instead, I can tell you this. You were always enough. There was nothing wrong with you. There was just a family that didn't know how to hold two kids at the same time. That's their limitation, not your identity. I'm not waiting for them to love me the way I needed anymore. I'm learning to love myself instead. It's slower than I thought. It's also steadier. And when my phone lights up and it's my mom, or my dad, or my sister, I take a breath. I answer if I can. I say what I mean. And then I go ride my bike until the air feels like new. If you've ever been through something like this, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if this story hit you even a little bit, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on that bell.